So I want us to start the very bit to
It's captions like
let me see the percent.
you tell it, I know. I can do that.
Wow. Like there, that thing you have no
I'm not telling you what to do. You give the paper the right information.
if so and say if okay, I think that's back to the get the place. A lot of things. A lot of things. Back to the things. Wow.
For nonsense. For that, there'll be a massive prayer.
Much okay.
When you come back from my answer.
All these days, most of this what
My child was me that smart is too free. Now, I finish my work. This is the cover here. This is space.
All right. Good evening. So we'll be starting the meeting shortly without wasting much of our time. Moment of let's have a moment of prayer together. Father in heaven, we thank you this evening. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your mercy. Thank you for your preservation. As we start the meeting now, Lord, we pray you be with us in Jesus' name. Guide us, help us, lead us in Jesus' name. In Jesus' mighty name. So, without wasting much of our time, we start writing our very first line of code. So, as I said earlier, Python programming language is just like any other language. You can never think of English, Yoruba, French, British, and all of that. So, you just have to know some basic rules guiding them so that you can have a proper Python code which will run successfully without encountering any form of error. So the very first thing, this is our VS Code. I believe we should be introduced to something like this by now. Now, let's create our very first file. Now, I've, I've created a folder which is Code4Jesus. Just on this, you can click add new file. So, what's the name of the file? Let's say introduction.py. So, I click enter. So you can see it open right here. I can close this left tab. Now let's start by writing our very first line of code. Now, print doing. Print is an inbuilt function in Python which display a message on the terminal. So what section open on my screen is the terminal section. So now print. As you can see, I have the print function, and after it, I have two brackets, the open and the closing bracket, and then I have my quotes, open and closing quotes. So whatever message I want to pass in, I can put it right into it here. So let's say welcome to code Jesus. Now, this is our very first line of code. Now, let's see if it's running perfectly well. So, coming here, you can just add Python to run it. Then the name of the file, which is introduction.py. So, always ensure it is properly spelled. So, then I press my for Jesus. Welcome to Code for Jesus. So, let's see what is going to display. Now you can see it's displaying welcome to code, and there are a lot of things you can do with Python programming language. You can use it for data science, you can use it for data analysis, you can use it for back-end development. But in line with the Code for Jesus program, we'll be using Python as our back end. We'll be using Python for our back end. So basically, this is how you write passing a message with this. Any question before we proceed with this? If there is any question, you can just drop it on the chat as I proceed. So I'll be attending to them as I proceed. So we have print, welcome to Code for Jesus. Now let's do something pretty interesting now. Let's take, for instance, we want to receive an input from the user. We don't just want to keep passing the message. We want the user to have the flexibility of passing in whatsoever the new variable. Let me create a comment. Now, this is how you create a comment in Python. You have your hashtag, then press input your comment. Now, what are comments in Python? Comment is just help your it helps the programmer code to be easy to understand and all of that. So let's put in getting user's name. So let's now, how do you get the username? Let's create a variable here. Now, how do you create a variable in Python? Now, a variable is just like a container. You can take a variable as a box, and in the box, you can have anything in it. You can have a number, you can have a string, you can have a boolean, and all of that. So those are data type of which I just mentioned. But we'll be looking at those other ones shortly as well. So now let's start creating our very first variable. Let's say we have a variable with name. Now, name is now standing as the container. So what is the name going to be doing? I want to give it an input of enter, or let me just put in name here. So we are saying to Python that, okay, get the user's input, get the user's name. So print, I can just say, let's print it as simple as give the, at the terminal, return the name to me. Return the name to me. So I can come here now and run my code again. Running it again, I should see welcome to Code for Jesus, and you can see it's prompting for my name. So let's take, for instance, I am Philip. You can see it's displaying to me Philip. Any question before we proceed with this? Any question? Any question with this? So let's just continue while um, if you have any question, you can just drop it on the chat so I will attend to it. So I said also that we have various data types in Python. So let's just quickly look at a few of them. Now, instead of printing name directly to the terminal, I can actually give it another built-in function in Python, which is called type. Type. Now, what is type going to be doing? It's going to be returning what kind of data type is this name containing. So at first I said print name, and you can see it's printing out Philip. But now let's rerun this code. What I should be seeing next is it should be displaying a class of string, which is str. Let me put in my name. Now you can see it's displaying class str, which is short form for string in Python. So we also have Boolean. Let me just comment out this. We also have numbers in Python. Let's take, for instance, we want to get the age from the user. Now, you can just say, okay, input, input. Now, we can ask the user for their age. Now, asking for the user's age. In this format, your input will always return string by default. You can see now, when I put my mouse over the input, you can see this greater than sign, and you can see str. It means whenever you use your input function, what it automatically returns is a string. What it automatically returns is a string. So let's come here. Let's quickly, let's print out age. Let's print out the variable. Now let's print out age and see how that is going to work. Now, one thing you should know about Python is it runs line by line. Line 1 must be executed before moving to line 3, before moving to line 5 and line 6. Now, basically from this code, because I've commented out line 4, which is printing out the name, so I should not be seeing the name, even though it will be prompting me for the name. So let's quickly run this code again and see what that is. Now you can see, welcome to Code4Jesus. Now let's put in our name. Let's say my name is Okoye. Now you can see it's asking for the age. Now if I put in my age as 20, now you can see it's just printing out 20 to me. But one thing you should know is that this 20 is a string. And how do I know that? Because our function, which is the input function, is a built-in function in Python, always return a string. So how do we undo this? It occurs that there's another built-in function in Python, which is int, which converts your numerical, your numbers, which are saved as a string, to integer. It converts it from being a string to an integer. But before that, let's quickly print out the data type for this age, just to be sure. You can have your type. Let's have the type, and we can see type age. So let's rerun this. We can see same Code4Jesus. Let's put in someone else's age. Now let's put in 20. Now you can see it's saying it is returning a class of string to us. And as you know, there are limited things you can do with string. Those we'll be looking deeper into them in just a moment. But let's now change this to an integer by using the built-in function on it in Python. So with this, we are able to convert it from a string to an integer, which is another data type in Python. So let's quickly run this. It's asking for me. Let's put in Philip once again. It's asking for it. Let's say 20. Now you can see it's saying class integer. Class integer. So you might have been seeing something like this: int, input, type, print. All of these are inbuilt function in Python. They are functions. Don't worry, by the end of this Python class, probably not today, you will have been able to create your own function as well, which can help you. Is function are reusable lines of code, blocks of code that you have written that you can use over and over again. So these are inbuilt function in Python. These are the inbuilt function in Python, the int, the input, the type, the print. They are input function in Python. So before we round up this first section, I also want to introduce you to the syntax error in Python. Now, what are syntax error? Let's take, for instance, you are writing out of these 7 lines of code. Let me uncomment this. Let me uncomment this. Let me print out the name. Let's make it meter string. I want to create a formatted string. Now, your name is, now, how do you differentiate the string you are to display from the variable which you have in your Python file? You use the curly bracket for this. Then remember to put it at the very end as well. Now, the last thing you should always remember to put it is your quotation. Now, you should always remember to do that. So what have I done on line 4? I'm using the print function, but now I'm putting in F before the quotation. Now, what is F doing? It's telling me that this is a formatted string. This is a formatted string. I can have in strings and variables all together at once. Now you can see when I move my mouse over it, it's showing that this is a variable. Now let me just remove this. Now I can do the same thing here. Let me quickly do that. Formatted string. You are yes old. So remember to put in your closing quotation. Now let's run this again. This should be neater and much more descriptive than the one we've written before. Now let's run our Python file again. It's saying welcome to Code4Jesus. Now it's asking for our name. Now I can say my name is Philip Opeyemi. Now it's saying your name is Philip Opeyemi. Wow, that's great. Now if I'm saying my age is 30 years of age. Now it's saying you are 30 years old. Any question before we proceed with this? Any question? Any question from Mr. Johnson and Mr. Boduwati? Any question? Hello, I hope you can hear me.
So I'm okay with your explanation.
No, sir.
Hello, Mr.
No
Boduwati.
question.
All right. So one last thing before we round up with this introduction part of it is the issue of syntax. Now, syntax error can come as a result of you forgetting the, some of the basic things that ought to be in your code. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, let's take for instance, I forgot to put in this closing quotation mark. Now, by default, VS Code is already showing us this red underline saying that there is an error here, that this line 3 will run into error. Now, let's try to run it. Now, if I try to run it, I should see a syntax error, which is saying unterminated string literal detected at line 3. So these are errors, these are error statement that can actually guide you in knowing where the error is coming from. Now you can see it's saying detected at line 3. This is line 3 of our code. Now it's saying unterminated string literal. So it's saying that we have not completely closed, we do not have this closing quotation mark. So in such a case, you can have a syntax error. You can also have a syntax error. Let's take for instance, I forgot to put this curly bracket at the back of it. I will run into a syntax error as well. Not syntax error per se, but because this should be at the very end as well. So let's run this and see what kind of error that should bring. Now you can see again, syntax error, formatted string expecting the closing curly braces. So this is what you are likely to experience while writing your Python code. But just be rest assured, the syntax error, the error statement are descriptive enough to guide you in solving all of this problem. So that will be the end for the introduction part. Now let's look at string as a file now in our studies. Let's create a new file called string. Now let me just create a new file which is string str.py. Now we've been dealing with strings said string, anything in between quotations are referred to as string in Python. So whenever you see anything in between quotations, they are referred to as string. Now I can have, let me create a message as a variable. Now I'm having a string. Now this is a string. This is a string. Now, if I run this code by default, nothing will be displayed. Nothing will be displayed on my terminal. Can you tell me why? I want to get feedback from you. Why will nothing be displayed on the terminal? Let me run it. Python str.py. If I run this, nothing will be displayed on the terminal. Can you tell me why? All right, I'm waiting for a response.
I think since the mess does not start with this the quotation marks.
No, not at all, not at all. Why it is
Sir,
not, it is okay. Mr. Johnson, are you saying something?
I think from you said if they are the print makes it come. There is no print on the print
Perfect.
sheet that we
Perfect.
make you.
That's perfect. For you to display anything on the terminal, you must actually use your print function, which is a built-in function in Python. So you can just have print. Now we want to print message. So if I this is a string. So if I click my enter, I should see something like that. This is a string. Now it appears that string, they are sequence of characters. Now, what do I mean by sequence of characters? You can access any of them. Now, let's take for instance, I want to get what is in this very first part of it. I can actually access, let me just get, let me have another variable. First is equals to message with index is 0. Now, this is why I say string is a sequence of characters. T is a character. H is a character. So how do you access one of them after the other? Now, it appears that you can access them using this square bracket. Then the index of the character you actually want to get. Then you're closing square bracket. Now, if I print out first C returns to me, it should be outputting two things now. It will print out the message and print out C. So let's rerun this code and hopefully you can see that. So string is a list of is a sequence of characters. You can access each of them. Now you might be wondering, okay, what if I just want to get like everything? You can just come here and put in your column. So column is saying everything from the left hand side. You can actually have a number before it or a number after the column. Okay, let's try getting just the first 5 entry here. So if I run this code again, what I'm expected to see is about 4 characters. I should be seeing T, which is for index 0, H, I, X. That's about 4 characters already. And I believe that's all I should be seeing. So let's run this again. And you can see it's displaying this is a string and this alone. So it appears that in Python, there are built-in methods which has been built in with this string data type. Now, what do I mean by method? They are just kind of functionalities that you can give to your string data type. Are we together? They are functionalities that you can give to your string data type. Mr. Akonji, are you trying to say something? All right, let's continue. Now, it appears that for our string, there are methods that comes with it. Now, what are methods? Methods are they are kind of function in a class of string. Now, if you remember, we said the type of our message will be a class of string. Now, let me quickly print that so that we can have it. So if I come here, run my code again, I should see class string. Now, this by default is telling us that we have a class. By the time we will be rounding up with the Python class, you have a knowledge of how we can create your own class as well. So in a class, you can have multiple functions in it. So it just happens to be that for our string, there are multiple functions that we can do with it. Now, let's string methods. String methods. Now, take for instance, we have the message. You can see I have C capitalized and S capitalized. Now, let's take for instance, you want to capitalize everything, just print it. You can say MSS dots. Then that should give you all the list of available methods in Python for a string data type. All the available method. Now you see, we can capitalize it, we can give it a case code, we can center it, we can count it, we can end with, we can do a lot with them. But let's start with the very first one, which is upper. Now, remember to put in your opening and closing bracket because it is a method. It is a method, but it's not going to take in any input. So let's run this code again. Now, I'm expected to say about 3 output now on my terminal. The message, the this, and the last one, printing out the message, but now everything is in uppercase. So let's run our code, and you can see it's returning 3 output for me on my terminal. This is a string, this, and the last one, which is this, is a string, all in uppercase. All in uppercase. Let's see a bit of what we can actually do again. We can actually give it, we can even convert everything to a lower case as well. We can convert now. You can see everything now has been converted to a lower case. So, any question before we proceed with this? Any question? Any question before we proceed with this? We've covered a lot for this string data type already, and there are more. So, any question before we proceed with this?
I'm okay, sir. I'm okay with the explanation so far.
All right, all right. So let's just continue. So there are a lot you can do with your string data type, as you can have seen. We can give it uppercase, we can give it lower case. You can even do more by making everything to just look through all of them, familiarize yourself with it. So there are a lot there that you can actually look through. There's a lot. Okay, I think I can just quickly introduce us to one last one, which is split. It will be splitting all of the tests I've imputed. Now you can see the message is this is a string. I think we can easily modify this and bring it to our own taste. So let's take for instance, we want to receive an input from the user. So from anyone, how do I get input from the user? How do I get input from the user? Can anyone help with that? We talked about that in our very first meeting. How do I get input from the user? Mr. Buluwatife, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Oshoni, how can I get input from the user? Let's make this code interactive. We don't just want to give it a particular message. Let's give it something of our own choice.
So, in like how we got the age, the to request about is the input now. I think input.
That's perfect. To get an input from the user, you just simply use the input function, which is in Python. So let's change this to input. And now we are asking, so it means basically we are telling the user, give me something I can hold on to. So we can come back here and run our code, and you should see something like message. Now it's asking for a message. We can just say, welcome to Code4Jesus Python class. So if I run this, you can see it has run successfully, displaying all we need to know. It's displaying welcome to Code4Jesus Python class. And you can see I said the other time it will only return 5 output to us. You can see WELCO. That's just a list of 5 characters. Now you can see the welcome to Code4Jesus Python class all has been capitalized. And you can see the one following it, everything was in lowercase. Now, the last one, which I will be drawing our attention to, is this last part of it. We can see now that we have welcome in quotes, we have 2 in code, Code4Jesus in code, Python in quotes, class in quote, and everything in a square bracket. Now, what is this called in Python? Something like this is referred to as a list. Is referred to as a list in Python programming language. Now, what is a list? A list is just like a container. It's just like a container in Python. You can put in a lot of things you want into it. It's just like a container. It contains a lot of data type. It can contain a number. It can contain a string. It can contain a boolean and all of that. So let's quickly confirm that. Now, in the introductory part, I also mentioned how we can get the type, the type of what we want. Like, what type is it? Is it a string? Is it an integer? So from what we covered in the previous example, how can I get the input? How do I get the data type? So because of time, let me just do that quickly. So we can have prints as well. Now we can say this. We've been introduced to what we refer to as a string now. We've been introduced to int as well. But let's see what kind of data type this is. So let's run this code again and see what that should give us. So it's prompting me for the message again. I can just say Johnson and Oshoni attended the Python class. So let's run this. Now you can see what is displaying. Now we've gotten the message printed on our terminal. The next part, we're able to return just 5 um, inputs. The next part, we're able to capitalize everything. The next part, we're able to give it in lower case. And the next part, we're able to get everything into a string, into a list. And on the last part, you can see it is saying this is a class of lists. This is a class of lists. So basically, we've covered a lot with this. So one other thing I want us to take away is the issue of this slicing. Let's quickly do one last thing with that. Let me just comment out some of this code I want to display. Let me just comment this too. So let me just come. Now, I also want to print. We propose that we can actually slice our string, as I've said earlier. We can slice it from any angle. We can slice it from the beginning to a particular number, or even from the end to a particular range. So how do we do that? Now, you can see last 5 characters. Let me comment out the characters. So we can just come here and say 2 characters equals that should be your square index. Now, your column. Now, we want to start from about, let's say we want to start from 5, from index 5 to the last. You do that like this. So it's saying from this index 5, give me everything you have from index 5 to the last. So remember, we've said print everything to index 5, and on line 10, we are saying give me everything from index 5 to the last. So let's quickly print out that few characters. Now let's run our code again. Let me clear my terminal. So let's run our code again. Now it should prompt me for a message. I can say this will be all for string without type. Now let's run this. Now you can see it's displaying this will be all for string data type, and you can see it's returning this alone for me, and that's from line 4. Now you can see print those split. That's this aspect of. Now you can see the remaining part will be all for string data type, and you can see I'm returning class string. So any question regarding this before we move to the integer data type tonight? Any question regarding string data type? Any question regarding string data?
Okay. I'll look that I think line 13. If you can throw more light on that line 13, then
Now,
I'll be glad.
all right, no problem. I think I can do that. So now on line 13, I'm I'm kind of compiling everything on a single line. I could have splitted it out. Now let's just do that. It will have we have achieved the same thing. Let me first create split message. Remember, split message is a now it appears that we can even split by default. This is going to split on the white space in our message. What do I mean by white space? This blank, every blank you have in your message, that's how it's going to split it. Are we together? It's going to basically split on every white space we have. And it occurs that you can even split on a particular letter of your choice, a particular symbol or sign that you want. Are we together? So you can, instead of putting in this message or split now, you can just put in split message. So this will still have achieved the same thing. But what remember what we are returning is the data type. What type is it? That's what we are returning here. If I'm just to return the split, it's going to split the data, which is what we've done on line 8. Which is what we've done on line 8. We are just printing the splitted data type. Now let's check this out again. We should still achieve the same thing. We should still get the same thing. So if I run this again, it's going to be asking me for a message. Now I can say, okay, Tolu is coming. Just a simple message. Now you can see it returns to me Tolu is coming, and it's returning the first part, Tolu, and it's returning everything as a list because I've splitted it. And remember, I said it's going to be splitting on the white space, on the space in between. It split it. Basically, this is how it works. Wherever it sees a white space, it takes it as one input again. It takes it as an input. So you can see now that it takes Tolu as one, is and coming. Now, is coming is just this few part I was printing. Let me just bring this up so that they can always be together. So that's looking good. Now you can see it's returning a class of string. Don't worry, we'll still be getting to the list data type in Python. Probably if time permits, we'll be looking at the list data type as well in Python. So let me quickly show you one more last thing. Now, as I said, we can split on spaces or white space in our message. It appears that you can even split on any sign. Let's take, for instance, I have full stop in my data. I can just split it. It means this split will look for wherever there is a full stop in and split it into two. Now, let's rerun this code, and I think what I will just have to do here is let me just print the split message again. Now, remember, I'm doing two things right now. The first part, just print the message or split. That will be on the white space. Now, the next part, which is on line 14, I'm splitting on the full stop. I'm splitting it on the full stop. So let's run this code again and see. Now, it's giving me a syntax error. I'm having a syntax error here. I'm having a syntax error. So, Mr. Konji, can you tell me why I'm having a syntax error here? I think we dealt with syntax error in our first meeting at all.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Sure, I can hear you.
Because of the extra parentheses there.
Perfect. Now, it means you don't have to look through why the error is coming from. Now, even from the error message, you can see unmatched closing parentheses. That is your bracket. So you can just remove this last one. And if we try to run it again, I believe this should now run perfectly. So it's now asking us for a message. It's asking us for a message. All right, let's just put in a message. Hi, this is Philip. Full stop, your instructor for Python class. Now, this is a simple message. Now, let's see what will be happening. Now, a quick one. we should be expecting a few things to be happening right now. The first one, it should print out this message to us, right? On line 4, we are printing out just the very first 5 entry of this message. On line 6, we are printing everything from that 5 index to the last. On line 10, we are saying it should split everything on the white spaces that we have in the message. And the last part is, we are saying it should split it on wherever it sees a full stop. So basically, our attention is on line 15, which is the last thing that will be printed. So we are expected to see just 2 elements in the list, because here is the first full stop. It's going to split it on the very first full stop. So we should be seeing I, this is Philip, on in one quote, and your instructor for Python class in another quote. So let's run this and see what happens. Now, perfect. Now, looking at this now, the output, we can see now is displaying I, this is Philip, your instructor for Python class. I, T. Now, T is displaying there because we said we just want the 5 character. Now, the continuation of this is Philip, your instructor for the Python class. Now, for the very first, for line 10, which is print M, sorry about that, meant to split. It splitted everything on the white space, and as you can see, we have everything splitted out. But on line 15, we are only splitting it on the full stop. So you can see from I, this is Philip, is regarded as 1. Then you see your instructor for the Python class as another one. Now, where the question might be coming in is the fact that you have another empty string here. And that is because of the last full stop I put at the back. Because of the last full stop I put at the back. So any question regarding this before we end this section for the string data type? Any question? Any question regarding this?
No question for mine.
All right, if you don't have any question for me, I think I do have one for you guys. So now, let's take for instance, I do not want to receive an input from the user. Are we together? I don't want to receive an input from the user. I want to display a message like, let me just comment it. I want to display a message like, in my terminal, I want to see a message like, this is, let me comment it out. This is Philip's, I want to display a message like, this is Philip's bag. Now, can someone tell me how we can actually achieve this? I want to achieve something like this in my output. Just give me how to go about it so I can type it so we see how what the output will look like. Over to you, Mr. Aponji. Let me hear from you. How do I achieve something like this as my output? Mr. Aponji, we are waiting for you.
To print out, this is Philip's bag.
Sure, in that very same format. How can we achieve that?
We can put all the string inside the parentheses and just try to escape the apostrophe X.
All right, that's one way to do it. That's one way to have achieved that. So just because of our time and all of that, let's quickly look into this very last one. Let's quickly do something like that so that we can have a proper understanding of what we are doing. So let's come here and say print. Now we're having 2 quotation already. Are we together? Now it appears that there are 2 ways you can have done this. Print this. Today's right. Okay, I said the message is this is Philip's bag. Now, if I try to run this code like this, I should have an error. Yes, an error will be raised to me. So let's check it out. Now let's run it. I'm expected to see kind of syntax error or something. Yes. Now you can see saying invalid syntax. Perhaps you forgot a comma. Whereas I'm not forgetting a comma, but I want to print something like this. So it appears that there are two ways to have achieved this. The first is you can have used a backslash. A backslash. So you can have put in your backslash and it will work out. So using a backslash, we just tell Python that, okay, this part is just to be there. Don't do anything about it. So if we run this code again, we should not be encountering any kind of error. It should not successful. So let's just say hi everyone. So you can see, say this is Philip's bag. Now, another way you could have done it is this. If you know you'll be using double quote, it appears that in Python you can also have a single quotation mark. You can have used this, and you can have removed this backslash, and it will work perfectly just like this. So let's run it again and see. This way do all for string data. So let's run this. Now you can see it is still showing the same message. Any question before we move on to the integer data type regarding this section? Any question?
No question for my mind, sir.
All right. What about Mr. Johnson? Any question?
No, I don't have a question, sir.
All right. All right. So let's just proceed to the next data type. Now, we've looked at string data type properly. We've looked at string data type properly. Now, let's create a new file called integer. Integer.py. Now, remember, your Python file is always in .py extension. Now, what are the functionalities we can do with Python integer data type? So it appears that integer data type is just like your numbers. That's what should literally come to your mind when you are hearing integer data type. So let's take, for instance, we want to have sum of two numbers. Sum. We can have sum to be 2 plus 3. As simple as that. Then you can print in. You have to put in your Python integer.py. Should be returning to me 5. Should be returning to me 5. Now, let's proceed with this. Let's take, for instance, we want to get an input from the user, as I said in our introductory part of this course, that you can actually get an input from the user, which is totally what we want. So let's quickly create a simple calculator. Not calculator per se, but a simple just additional calculator. So that's some two numbers. So let's say our first number, we set it to first name. We are receiving an input from the user. You set it to this. Let's get second number from the user. So we receive the input from the number. Now we're already getting two input from the user, and we've saved it into a variable first name and second name. Now it appears that we can easily do this in Python. You can now have your sum to be equals to plus second number. So, but this code will not be running properly. It won't be running properly, but let's see what it will be displaying. Let's see what it will be displaying. It will run successfully without any error, but we'll be having some kind of issue with the output. So let's run it and see that. Now it's asking for the first number. Now let's say our first number is just 20. It's asking for the second number. Let's say that to 24. So if I run this, I'm seeing 2024. And whereas I should be getting about 44. Can someone tell me why we are having this? Can someone help me with this? Mr. Akonji or Mr. Johnson, why do you think we're having this 2024 instead of 44?
Python actually interpret the plus sign as a concatenation sign.
Yes, that's one part of it. What about Mr. Johnson? What can you say about that output? Why we are having that output and all of that?
So I'll just I don't know what to say now.
All right, no problem. I can just explain now. Now, basically, this input, what it returns is a string. It returns to us a string. And it appears that in Python, you can even add two strings together. You can add two strings, and that's what we refer to as string concatenation. So let's take, for instance, we can have come here and say string plus, you can have a space, and you can come here and still have your plus. So it's going to say 20, it's going to print 20, a space, and 24. So let's run this and see that if I run this same code again, it's asking for 20 and I put in 24 again. And you can see it has splitted it separately. But all of these are strings, but we want to deal with numbers, integers. So it appears that we can easily, there's a built-in function in Python called int, which converts something like this to an integer. Now, just to make our code easy and readable so that we can actually understand it, do them step by step. Let me make it pretty readable and understandable. Just a minute. Now, let me comment this. Get the input from the user. That is the first part. The input to integer. Number. You can even equate it to itself, but now it is an number. Now you just have to understand this step by step. We have the first number as a variable. Now I'm passing it here as a variable, but I'm still assigning it to the same name of variable. So I can actually change it. Let me just edit it. Edit this to first. How do I edit it? Let me just change that to that. So then you can convert it to int of second number. We've been able to convert the first number and the second number to an integer data type. Now we can now proceed with the addition. Now we can now say sum. We can now say, let me just come in, add. So we can now come here, first number. So if we run this, will be 4. Now let's run this again. And hopefully we should be getting 44. So we have first number, let's say 20. Smart, oh. Smart. Oh. Smart. Smart is the Guinea to kilobyte.